They'd be on pace for 67 wins right now. That's insane. This is wild.
You know what it feels like? It feels like the old Spurs teams.
It does.
You know? This has really gotten crazy, Kevin. It really has. I mean, they are 9 of their last 10. They've won 8 in a row. And if you go back, I went to look at this because I saw somebody mention the other day that they are on this crazy against the spread streak. Okay? You know they put lines on these in Vegas for every game. And typically if a team gets hot, eventually the lines catch up to it. Okay? Like at some point the odds makers start inflating the line to deal with what is taking place, which is a team winning all the time. I went back and looked, and this was when I pulled it up from team rankings. In their last 20, if I have this right, when I went down the list and I marked they are 19-1 against the spread.
That's wild.
Their one loss. They were a 2.5-point favorite against the Denver Nuggets.
Wow.
And they lost listen to this, 128-117. Nikola Jokic had 47 points, and the Nuggets shot 64% from 3. That's the one loss. One. And it took a guy scoring 47 and a team shooting 64% from 3. Like, what in the hell is going on here? This is madness. Madness.
I mean, we touched on it on Friday with Zach, and, it's the type of thing with this team. It just feels like they are complete. It feels like they are a complete unit on both ends of the floor, even right now without Mike Conley out there, who's very important to them and what they do with their ability, like Quinn Snyder's ability to play 2-guard lineups almost all the time. Conley is critical, but it just feels like this team with Rudy Gobert playing at the level he is, defensive player of the year caliber guy. I'd have him as the favorite right now. Jordan Clarkson, I'd have him as my 6th man of the year right now.
Yep.
Donovan Mitchell, who isn't putting up the numbers that are popping in the way that I think people might have expected following his bubble run when he was dropping 50+ points. But I feel like Mitchell is playing a more seasoned game, Chris. You can see it in his playmaking. You can see it in the pace with which he plays. You can see it with really the unselfishness and the willingness to go off ball and attempt more catch and shoot threes instead of, attacking the basket and taking pull-up twos. He's doing a lot more of that this season. And that buy-in, when you have that from your best players, everybody on the roster is doing it. Joe Ingles, Bojan Bogdanovic, Royce O'Neal, all these guys on this roster have bought into their roles. They're bought in completely and into each other, and that's where you see those moments where they're just whipping the ball around the floor, and like they're telepathic, where they're rotating on defense, and they know where to be, they know when to be there. It just feels like a complete team with a bunch of smart players and no weak links. And the fact that they're on pace, like during a normal 82-game season, Chris, they'd be on pace for 67 wins right now. That's insane. This is wild.
You know what it feels like? It feels like the old Spurs teams.
It does.
Those teams that went up against Heat. And
I agree.
It should come as no surprise that Quinn Snyder learned under Greg Popovich, right? And to your point on Mitchell, you're right, Kev. It's not like in the bubble, it felt like Donovan Mitchell and then the 4 other guys, right? But he was...
And no Bogdanovic, too, for that time
but
period.
then he was like the superstar, and then there was like a step down, and then the other guys would get what they get. This doesn't feel like that, right? This feels much more like that Parker, Ginobili, Duncan, Danny Green's knocking down threes, and whoever you want to say is in that role.
Else, Patty Mills, Bruce Brown, Bowen, it's like they get a whole bunch of guys over the years of the Spurs that just filled their roles. Tiago Splitter.
And it's not just like one guy and then the other 4 guys. And the other thing is, we talked about this at the very beginning of the year, and I said, and it was actually in conjunction with the Nuggets, and I said, there's that shot at the end of the bubble when it went to number 1, they blew a 3-1 lead. And that's become more commonplace now, or else it would have been a bigger deal. And obviously, no one is ever going to surpass a 3-1 lead. Sorry, Warriors fans, blowing that in the finals. But obviously,
unless a team blows a 3-0 lead someday, which we'll see. It's inevitable someday.
See, the Warriors one covered up the Oklahoma City one, even that year, right? Yeah. As they had blown it. So everybody forgot about that one. But this 3-1 lead that was blown, and it comes down to Mike Conley's got a shot. And it's either going to be Denver that moves on, or it's going to be Utah that moves on. And Utah is the one left with their hearts ripped out, right? And it's the ultimate lump to take. Number one, you've blown it. You've blown the series. And then at the end of the game, you had one shot, and it was a great look by Conley.
Yep.
And if it goes in, you're moving on, and who knows? And if it doesn't, you're going home. After you've just stayed for these last couple of months at a hotel, you've given it everything you've got. And I think that and this is why I say in conjunction with Denver has not come back as this hungry, scratch and claw for everything team. Miami has not come back as this scratch and claw by any means. Them. And there was a level of success achieved by those teams that I do think creates a comfort within them that they come back the next year and say, all right, line them up. We'll play whoever because we can do whatever we want. Whereas Utah, that came back like a team that got its heart ripped out in the bubble. And that is certainly part of this. I believe that wholeheartedly, that once you get, once you have your heart ripped out in that fashion, that it's going to go one of two ways. It's either going to fracture you or you are going to come back. And this happened, by the way, to liken it back to the Spurs on the Ray Allen 3. Because they came back, you know what I mean? They came back after that and beat asses.
And they were just, they were on a mission the entire year.
Locked in.
On a mission. And right now, Utah, they are locked in. I mean, you can see it on the court when you just put on a game and watch it. Like, it just shows in the numbers, too. They're number 4 in offensive rating on the year, number 2 in defensive rating on the year. I looked this morning, Chris. They're the only team ranked in the top 10 for both.
That's crazy.
That's unusual. Like, the top 10. The Sixers are 7 in offense, 11 in defense. The Lakers are number 1 in defense, but number 12 in offense. So it's like all these teams are either great at one, towards the middle of the pack, and the other. Utah's near the top in both, and that's because this is a team that is completely bought into each other, completely has the belief of what they're capable of doing together. And they're executing at an elite level on the court, man. Like, this team, I don't know what you can say about them other than like questioning what they can be in the postseason against a locked-in Lakers team or a locked-in Clippers team. That is still a question that we'll see, and that won't get answered for months from now. But every single question that you may have had about them during the regular season, when it comes to predicting ahead, they're answering everything. In my video last week in The Void, I asked, like, well, I want to see how they operate in games in which they're not hitting their threes. We saw that the other night in their win. We're seeing how they operate when a guy is out. Right now, Mike Conley's not playing. We're seeing what they do. Every step of the way, they are proving that they find ways to win because they have so many guys on that roster who, to take your line, Chris, they don't play guys who suck.
Right.
Their roster is filled with good players at worst and some great players too. And when you have a guy like Jordan Clarkson who can come off your bench and drop 30 points on a hot night, but on regular nights, he's still providing that spark. He's giving defensive energy. He's making the right passes for you. Those are the ingredients that championship teams need, is those guys who can pop on any particular night. And there's nobody who has proven they can pop more in big games than Donovan Mitchell. And that's when it comes to the playoffs months from now. We'll see. They're going to need those moments. But I mean, every week that passes, Chris, my confidence in them grows and grows and grows and grows.
Clarkson really deserves some love too, because you and I both guilty. When the free agency thing came across, it was like, oh wow,
it's a lot of money. Yeah.
Look, considering who signed deals in the summer, and you're looking around and you're seeing Bertans and you're seeing Gallinari and you're seeing all these guys that signed in the offseason for the numbers that they did. He has proven the Jazz's confidence in him correct, because he has been better than ever after getting that contract. That was not a contract of here is your reward for past performance. That was, we believe in you going forward. That's why you give a deal like that out. And he has proven them correct. He's that dude. He is the guy that comes off the bench and does give them 30. And there ain't a lot of teams that have a guy that comes. There's a lot of teams that have a guy on the bench that could give you 20. There's not a lot that could give you 30.
Oh, he gives you 18 every night. Yeah, every night you get 18 of him, you know?
Right. And so, yeah, they have been scorching hot.